Greetings everyone. Welcome to this special lecture on making of Indian Republic. The preamble to our constitution serves some very important purposes. Firstly, it indicates the source from which the constitution derives its authority, that is, the people of India. It also states the objects which the constitution seeks to establish as well as promote. So the preamble seeks to establish what Mahatma Gandhi described as the India of my dreams. So what kind of India it was? An India in which the poorest shall feel that it is their country, in whose making they have an effective voice. An India in which all communities shall live in perfect harmony. There can be no room in such an India for the curse of unsociability or the curse of intoxicating drinks and drugs, and women would enjoy the same rights as men. Constitution of India is considered to be the supreme law of the country as it puts forth the framework of fundamental political principles. It establishes the structure, procedures, powers and duties of the government. And it also mentions the fundamental rights, directive principles, as well as duties of Indian citizens. The evolution of India from a British colony to a sovereign, democratic and secular nation was certainly historical. It was a long journey which had started with the conceptualization of this vision in 1930s to its actual comprehension as late as 1950. So, the Indian Constitution shows both federal as well as unitary system. The federal system in which powers are divided or shared between the state and the central governments, and in the union system where the power concentration in central government with weak state governments. If we talk about the federal features, then the division of powers between the union and the state, as well as the existence of an independent judiciary in the Indian Constitution, are very important. And if we talk about some of the unitary features, then the idea of single citizenship, single constitution, power of union to override on the state matters, and also some emergency powers. All these indicate some unitary features. Then changes in the names and boundaries of the states by the parliament, the idea of integrated judiciary system, then center appointing the governors, dependence of states on the center for economic assistance and grants. There are 25 parts if we talk about how the constitution is spaced out. The individual articles of the constitution are grouped together into several parts, which are 25. So while part 1 deals with union and its territory, part 4 deals with directive principles of state policy, part 6 deals with the states, part 9 deals with the panchayats, and part 8 deals with the union territories. Then part 10th deals with the scheduled and the tribal areas. Part 12th deals with finance, property, contracts and suits. Then part 13th deals with trade and commerce within India, and so on and so forth. So therefore, each and every part of Indian Constitution is very, very important as well as comprehensive. And Article 1 to 395, this is a subcategory of different parts in the Constitution which contains a detailed information on the subject or the title which an article represents. Also, one can talk about the amendments, as many as 97. Amendment of the Constitution of India is the process of making changes to the nation's fundamental law. Changes to the Indian Constitution are made by the Federal Parliament, and the procedure is laid out in part 20th in also Article 368 of the Constitution. If we talk about the schedules, then there are as many as 12 schedules. These are the lists in the Constitution that categorize and tabulate bureaucratic activity as well as government policy. And there are appendices where these are extension to the Constitution itself. Coming to the aspect of fundamental rights, which are mentioned in part 3rd, and they range from Article 12 to Article 35. The very term fundamental indicates that these rights are so important that the Constitution has separately earmarked them and made special provisions for their protection as well. And also it is ensured that they are not violated by any government. While ordinary legal rights are protected and enforced by ordinary law, fundamental rights are protected and guaranteed by the Constitution of the country. It also recognizes certain basic fundamental rights for every citizen of India, like right to freedom of religion, right against exploitation, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies, right to equality. And ordinary citizens may be charged by the legislature by ordinary process of lawmaking, but a fundamental right may only be changed by amending the Constitution itself. No organ of the government can act in a manner that violates them, and any infringement of fundamental rights can be challenged by any citizen of India in the court of law. The Constitution of India also prescribes some fundamental duties on every citizen of India, which are mentioned in part 4th and indicated in Article 51A. These are considered as the duties that must be and should be performed by each and every Indian citizen. They are defined as: it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the Constitution, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so, to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood, to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom, to protect and improve the national environment, to develop the scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry as well as reform, to safeguard public property and to abjure violence, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of achievement. A very important part of Indian Constitution are the directive principles, which provide the socio-economic base for a genuine democracy, that is India. So these can further be classified as socio-economic principles, liberal ideas, Gandhian principles, as well as international principles. If we talk about socio-economic principles, it basically means that the state shall try to formulate the policy in such a manner so as to secure adequate means of livelihood for its citizens. Also, the ownership of material resources would be controlled in such a way so as to serve the common good and not to fulfill the individual desires of some citizens only. Also, the economy of the state should be administered in such a manner so that wealth may not be concentrated in a few hands and it would be used for public good. If we talk about liberal principles, it basically means formulating and implementing a uniform civil code for all the people living throughout the territory of India. The state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all the children. And also, the state shall raise the level of nutrition and standard of living of its people. An attempt would be made to organize agriculture and husbandry on modern and scientific lines. The state will work within the limits of its economic viability and progress, and also provide to the citizens the right to work, right to education, and general assistance in the time of disease, old age, or any other disability. Article 42 of the Constitution ensures that the state will make provisions for the creation of just and humane conditions of work and also ensure maternity relief, ensure adequate wages, good life and rest to the labourers, and also provide socio-cultural facilities to poor. If we talk about Gandhian principles, which are mentioned in Article 40, it indicates that the state will strive to organize panchayats in villages and will endow them with such powers that encourage the self-governance principle. Also develop the cottage industry in the rural areas both on individual as well as cooperative basis. Ban the consumption of liquor and other intoxicating drinks which are considered injurious to health. Ban the slaughtering of cows, calves and other milk cattle. If we talk about the international principles, it basically means that the state will strive to promote international peace and security. Honorable relations would be maintained among various states in the world, and there would be a respect for international treaties, agreements, law, and also the state will strive to settle international disputes by arbitration. So the three very important parts of government of India, that is legislative, judiciary and executive, are well taken care of by the Constitution. The idea is to promote the concept of popular sovereignty, socialism and secularism, which are the basic principles on which Indian Constitution is based. In addition to fundamental rights, directive principles, judicial independence, the concept of federalism as well as cabinet government. So the framers tried to accumulate and accommodate the best features of other constitutions, keeping in mind the specific problems and needs of our country. So as a result, the kind of constitution that we came to have can be described as one of the longest written constitution, as also partly rigid but partly flexible, also a constitution that made India a democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. The constitution provides for a quasi-federal setup with a strong center. It means that a federal setup where despite having two clear sets of government, central and the states, more powers are given to the central government. Now I would come to a very important aspect of constitution, that is role of women. The Constitution of India was adopted by the elected Constituent Assembly on 26 November 1949 and came into effect on 26 January 1950. The total membership of the Constituent Assembly was 389. While we all remember great men like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the father of the Constitution and many other pioneering male members who helped draft the Indian Constitution, the contribution of the 15 female members of the Constituent Assembly is easily forgotten. So let us now pay attention to them as well. One can speak of some women like Ammu Swaminathan, who was born into an upper caste family in Anakkara of Palaghat district, Kerala. She formed the Women's India Association in 1917 in Madras along with leaders like Annie Besant, Malathi Patwardhan, Mrs. Dada Bhoy, and Mrs. Ambujamal. She became a part of the Constituent Assembly from the Madras constituency in 1946. In a speech during the discussion on the motion by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to pass the draft constitution, an optimistic and confident Ammu remarked, "People outside have been saying that India did not give equal rights to her women. Now, we can say that when the Indian people themselves framed their constitution, they have given rights to women equal with every other citizen of the country." This is a visual that is being shared with you on the screen, which consists of some pictures of important women who played crucial role in framing of the constitution. It was one of the first associations which demanded adult franchise as well as constitutional rights for women. And Ammu's second born, Lakshmi Sehgal, also led the Rani Jhansi regiment in the Indian National Army under Subhash Chandra Bose. Another significant female was Dakshayani Velayudhan, who was born on July 4th, 1912 in Cochin. She was the leader of the depressed classes belonging to the Pulaya community, who were severely discriminated against. She was among the first generation of people to be educated from the community and also the first woman who wore an upper cloth, as women in her community were not allowed to wear upper cloth. She was the first and only Dalit woman to be elected to the Constituent Assembly in 1946. And she sided with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar on several issues related to the scheduled caste community during the Constituent Assembly debates. Then another significant contributor was Begum Aizaz Rasool. While we can also talk about several other women contributors like Durgabai Deshmukh, who was born in 1909, and at 12 years of age she had participated in the non-cooperation movement along with Andhra Kesari T. Prakasam. She participated in the Salt Satyagrah movement also in Madras city in 1930. In 1936, she established the Andhra Mahila Sabha, which within a decade became a great institution of education as well as social welfare in Madras. As you can see, this visual that is being shared with you about this great lady, Durgabai Deshmukh. Then another significant contributor was Hansa Jeevaraj Mehta, who was born to the Diwan of Baroda. She studied journalism and sociology in England. She belonged to a very rich and powerful, influential family. But she chose to be a reformer and a social activist, as well as an educator and a writer. She became the president of All India Women's Conference in 1945, and in her presidential address at the All India Women's Conference convention that was held in Hyderabad, she proposed a charter of women's rights. Another significant contributor was Kamla Chaudhary, who was born in an affluent family of Lucknow. However, it was still a struggle for her to continue education due to patriarchal ideas. Moving away from her family's loyalty to the British government, she joined the Nationalists and was a very active participant in the civil disobedience movement that had been launched by Mahatma Gandhi in 1930. She was also Vice President of All India Congress Committee in its 54th session and was elected as a member of the Lok Sabha in the late 70s. Then Leela Roy, who was born in Assam in 1900 was instrumental in forming the Dhaka Mahila Satyagraha Sangha, which played a very active role in the anti-salt tax movement. She joined the Congress in 1937 and founded the Bengal Provincial Congress Women's Organization. She was also a member of Women's Subcommittee formed by Subhash Chandra Bose, and when Bose went to jail in 1940, she was nominated the editor of the Forward Bloc Weekly, and Netaji gave complete charge of party activities to Leela Roy and her husband. Amrit Kaur, who was born in 1889 in Lucknow, was India's first health minister, and she held that post for almost 10 years. Daughter of Harnam Singh, son of erstwhile Maharaja of Kapurthala, she was educated in England, but she gave it all to become Mahatma Gandhi's secretary, which she continued to remain for 16 years. As you can see, this visual of Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Then Sucheta Kriplani, who was born in 1908 in Haryana. She is especially remembered for her very important role in the Quit India movement of 1942. She also established Women's Wing of the Congress Party in 1940 and became India's first woman chief minister. So, having discussed all these great contributors, both men as well as women, now we can say that the journey was not easy. It was not as if everything was being handed over to Indians on a platter. We had to struggle. A lot of research had gone into the making of Indian Constitution. So let us all rejoice. Thank you.